Good afternoon. This is Steve Alexander from MSP-Ignite. Thank you so much for joining us for this webinar from ID Agent and Natasha Boyko. As someone that runs around and presents at a lot of different events, I get to see vendor presentations all the time. And this one is by far my favorite. Not to put any pressure on you, Natasha, but this one is definitely my favorite. So let me bring Natasha on and we'll go ahead and get started.
Just to make sure.
Yep.
Awesome. There we go. There we go. All right. Thank you guys so much for joining this afternoon, and thank you to Steve so much for allowing us to spend some time with you here and talk a little bit about dark web monitoring and what we've got going on. So we actually thought that we would do something a little bit different. So for those of you that are on the call that have seen us present either at a show or a different webinar or wherever, we usually go through a platform demo and kind of share all of that information. But today we're going to do something a little bit different. So Steve and I are going to just kind of talk a little bit more about the current threat landscape kind of facing SMBs and how you as MSPs can, really drive kind of awareness, education, and really help secure your partners, and then kind of additionally really use that to drive new revenue and use cybersecurity as a way to get your foot in the door and really open the conversation about all sorts of different security solutions and products that are out there. So before we kind of dive into the Q&A, I just wanted to kind of take a step back and share a little bit of high-level information about our organization. So as Steve mentioned, I'm Natasha. I'm on the channel development team here at ID Agent. So, our role really is traveling around the world and sharing kind of how our product and solution has helped MSPs, in a number of different ways. So a couple of just high-level stats here about our company. We've got partners in 25 countries. We just hit about 2,200 current partners. Our team is growing like crazy, and a lot of the employees that we're hiring are MSP facing, so really helping you guys kind of deliver and sell the product. One of the things that I think we're most proud of is the number here, the 3 former MSP CEOs on staff. So really at a high level, what we're doing is monitoring the dark web for credential exposure. So that's kind of our core business model, is monitoring for those emails and passwords that have been compromised and allowing you as the MSP to use that data to then sell that as that monitoring as a managed service, but also use that, as I mentioned, for additional revenue and using that to sell additional products in your cybersecurity stack. So one of the things that has been a huge focus for us from day one in thinking about this solution and thinking about what we're offering is making sure that it fits the MSP model, right? And that it fits kind of how you guys are selling your solutions and products. We know that you're inundated with different software and different services and different things that you right, quote unquote, have to offer to your clients. So we really wanted to distill that noise and make it so that the channel program we're developing and the solution itself is very MSP friendly. So a huge piece of that really has been hiring on our team former MSP CEOs, people that have been in the MSP space, so that, as we're developing these products and these enhancements and different solutions, that it really makes sense for you. So we've got 3 former MSP CEOs on staff, one of which is our VP of Partner Success. So he's running kind of that entire department that is really, managing, your accounts and your success on a day-to-day basis. And then, kind of outside of that, over 50% of the staff that we have that is partner facing, so ones that are working with our partners and really driving that that conversation have been in the MSP space in one way or another. So half of our business development team comes directly from the MSP space, and it's really important to us to make sure that we're making smart choices in terms of enhancements and developments in our platform so that it makes a lot of sense for you as our partner. So kind of let's talk about the problem, right? Let's talk about what our solution is actually, trying to solve for, and things that you hear every day. When you think about cybersecurity, it's very it's on the news every day. There's different articles, different things that are happening. But what we really want you to take away from this is how you can use all of that information and all of that content to educate your clients, because they often don't think that they're a target. So this is a sentiment that you probably hear often going into sales meetings, going into client meetings, talking to your end users, who are, most often those small to medium-sized businesses, and you hear, we're too small to care about, or this won't happen to me. I'm just a 5-person dental office. Why would a cyber criminal target my organization? Or, I'm just a small, family-owned, florist in town. Why would a cyber criminal even care to bother, to attack my information, my data, my customers? And then, of course, as you know, who's the #1 phone call that's going to happen when and if something does occur. So really, we want you to use not just the data, but just this content and kind of how we're framing this and the messaging and the marketing and all of that, so that you can reiterate to your customers that, you are a target, it is happening, and here's why you need to think about investing and spending money and spending time and energy on cybersecurity, because it, again, it's the livelihood of the business at stake there. And then, just kind of drilling it down a little bit further. So our platform, Dark Web ID, as I mentioned, monitors the dark web for credential exposure, so emails and passwords associated with your client's domains. So what's happening is your clients and their customers and their employees are logging into all sorts of websites. Some are work-related, some are not work-related, and they're using their work email address, but more frightening is they're using the same or close to the same password across the board. So they're using the same password they're using to log into the CRM that they're using to log into their bank account or to LinkedIn or to lots of other different applications and websites. And what's happening is, as the cyber criminals are attacking these third-party websites, the credentials are one of the top things that are stolen. That's the emails and passwords that they're using to then potentially get into the network. So what our platform does is monitor for that exposure, and then allows you to not only sell that as a managed service, but then also use that from a prospecting standpoint so that you can get your foot in the door and start the conversation. And then additionally, within the platform, we've got security awareness training and anti-phishing simulation. So you've got the ability to kind of create, kind of a 1-2 punch there on really giving your clients and their employees insight into the human side of this. So we're looking at behavior, we're looking at password behavior, and where's their risk and where are their gaps in what's happening within their organization, and where are they potentially handing over the keys to the network. So that's kind of from, a pretty, high level, what the platform is monitoring for, what the actual kind of problem is. And then, Steve and I wanted to kind of dive in now to just some of the issues and some of the things that, we really just wanted to talk about to help you kind of think about how you could frame this message, how you could frame this as a managed service, and really give you maybe some little tidbits here, some food for thought as you're thinking about cybersecurity.
Yeah, that's great, Natasha. It's funny that we all know that our clients, our small business clients, are the targets. I think where we struggle is how we get that point across to them.
Right.
How we can use the tool for that.
Yeah, and that's such a huge piece here, because you turn on the news and you hear about Target, you hear about Facebook, all of these large organizations that are experiencing these breaches and these hacks, and it's not relevant, right? Like if I'm the owner of, a small, clothing store in town, I'm not going to look at that and think, oh, well, that could be me. So, one of the things that we always talk about, and, to be honest, we get this pushback sometimes is, well, I don't want to sell on fear. I don't want to just have this as a scare tactic. I don't want to scare someone into buying something from me. And the way that, we kind of view this is you're not selling on fear, you're selling on reality. So you're giving them, insight into what's already happened within their organization and helping them understand that you are a target. And, one of the things that is quite scary, when you think about these large breaches that are happening. So the dark web in general, you know, we talk about this all the time. It's run like a business. It's a sophisticated marketplace where there's job postings, there's hacker reviews, there's things that are going on where it's legitimized, and they're, you know, really looking at this as a way to just make a ton of money. So if I'm a hacker and I'm trying to go after, you know, British Airways, for example, it's going to take me a long time to orchestrate that. It's going to take money, a team that I have to hire, you know, long drawn out plans and, you know, ways that I can get in and, you know, different execution strategies. But the smart cyber criminals are thinking, well, if it can take me just a team of one, just myself, and I can do it in a day or two, and I can go after a bunch of small businesses, I'm going to do that. I'm going to take that path of least resistance, and I'm going to start going after these smaller organizations, because at the end of the day, credit card information is credit card information. You know, data is data, and that's what's valuable. So, you know, we're starting to see more and more that this is happening to the SMB space. And, you know, we think about, well, how are they getting in? How are they targeting? You know, and such a huge piece of this is credential exposure. You know, that's, you know, the most common way that hackers are getting into these organizations is through phishing attacks, through different ways of obtaining those emails and passwords. And, you know, what's scary and kind of what ultimately falls on the responsibility of the managed service providers is making sure that the employees of these organizations can detect and can, you know, understand and kind of pick these things out so that they're not falling for these exploits over and over again. And that's, you know, kind of where this platform comes into play, because you're able to, not only from a security awareness training standpoint, but just from a data standpoint, you know, being able to share that information, share those vulnerabilities in, you know, just about real time. You're able to show them, here's the risk, here's the actual employee that you know, did this or that was exposed. And then you can start building some smarter procedures, smarter policies, putting some, you know, really strong kind of different things in place there so it doesn't happen. But, you know, I think it's crucial to make sure that as you're marketing to the SMB space, don't talk about Target, don't talk about Marriott, because it's not relevant. You know, you want to bring it back to some of these other local things that are happening, things that are happening at a smaller scale, because that's what's going to resonate, and that's what's really going to, you know, bring it home for them and understand that maybe this is something I need to invest some money and time in.
Yeah, you know, are there specific types of exploits that we should be aware of or that we can help educate our clients on?
Yeah, I mean, I would say the biggest thing are, you know, these phishing attacks that are coming out, you know, directed at, you know, these, you know, employees within an organization. You know, there's the things that are more common that we're aware of, things like the Office 365, where it's tech support and they need you to, you know, enter in your credentials so they can work on an update that has to happen for Outlook, for example. Or, you know, things like, you know, and I'm sure everyone on this call has gotten this, you know, the CEO sent me a note and says that he needs 50 gift cards and I need to, you know, send them over. Or, you know, please enter in your email address and your password because we're changing email servers and now we need to migrate everyone over. So enter in your credentials. So it's, you know, all of those things that, you know, honestly seem really legitimate. And that's where it becomes harder for the MSP to be able to educate on this, because they're constantly evolving and constantly changing. So that's why it's really important to have a solid kind of training and awareness, you know, plan in place so that you can start understanding, you know, who are the employees that are falling for this more than others, you know, where are there some gaps there. You know, but again, you know, we hear this all the time, you know, phishing attacks, while they may not be, you know, super sexy now because it's, you know, kind of it's been done for a long time, it's still one of the most, you know, one of the easiest ways to get in. And it's still, you know, one of the most, you know, it's the most common and it happens all the time. So, you know, really being able to educate them that here are the things you need to look out for. Here's what you need to do when you do get a suspicious email, because it really does come down to employee behavior and what you can do to kind of alter that. Because you can have all of the right firewalls and hardware and everything in place that you need to. All it takes is one person to give up their password. And that's kind of the scary part, is that there's not a ton of control over that outside of the education and awareness.
That's a great point. You know, I think we always try and educate our clients on on what the real risk is. Like, what's at stake for our customers? They don't, it doesn't always resonate with them, right?
Right. And, that's where, and we talk, I say this all the time, but it's like, I can still book a hotel room at Marriott. I can still book a British Airways flight, whatever it is. So for those larger things that are happening, the larger breaches, the larger attacks, it's a PR nightmare, and they've got to deal with that, and they, hopefully have to pay a huge fine, and all of that's happening. But at the end of the day, what's at risk for these small businesses is their actual business. So if you think about, what it takes to recover from this. So not only from, a monetary standpoint, like let's say there's a ransomware and they decide they want to pay it, or if they've got to, pay to, buy everything new for the organization from a hardware standpoint, or whatever it is, there's a monetary value there. But then there's also, when you think about downtime and you think about, the ability to, or the inability to kind of run your business for whatever period of time, it ends up being, these are things that are shutting the doors of these organizations. So, what's at risk isn't just a headache or something you're going to have to deal with, for a week. For a lot of these small businesses, this is shutting their doors. There was a printing company in Denver, and it's a smaller shop, 15, 20 employees, not a huge organization, but they were hit with a ransomware attack. And unfortunately, that was it. Like, that destroyed their organization. And that was, a family-owned business that had been, around for a long time. And unfortunately, this shut their doors. I read one story, which I thought was particularly crazy. So there was a couple in upstate New York, and they had put together this business model and starting to kind of lay things out for some type of education consulting, something that they were doing, just the two of them, kind of very small organization. And they didn't even have a website. So they didn't even have their, kind of public website up yet, but they had a couple of clients, and they were starting, trying to bootstrap it. And there was the third-party vendor they were using for credit card transactions. So the way they were going to get payments was breached, got their information, and there was they had like a $25,000 fine that they had to pay back to the bank for clients' money that was lost. And that shut their business. I mean, that was it. They couldn't move forward from that. So, you think about, it sounds like small potatoes, and you're comparing it to these larger organizations that are getting hit, but that's crippling for a small business. So it's little stories like that. It's things that you can share that kind of bring it home and have that, reaction of, oh, maybe I do need to care about this. Like, maybe this could happen to me.
It's a great point. And we hear all the time from all of our MSPs, both our members and when I'm out prospecting and meeting people everywhere else, that they struggle getting buy-in to security solutions that they're trying to sell. How have your partners helped shape that message using ID Agent?
Yeah, absolutely. So I would say this is twofold. So there's one, it's going into that meeting, going into that conversation, and showing them the data. At the end of the day, that's what it comes down to, because you can talk to your blue in the face, you can be the best salesperson in the world and know everything there is to know about cybersecurity, but you can come in there, slide the envelope across the table, show them the email address and the passwords of their employees that have been exposed, particularly strong if it's, someone on the executive team or someone, kind of high target at that organization. But, that's how you create that sense of urgency. That's kind of how you get that buy-in. And that's, through our platform, that's what you're getting. You're getting the username or the email address, full clear text passwords. And that's kind of your, sliding the envelope across the table and saying, look, you guys have all told me you don't care about this. You've told me this isn't a big deal, but here's why, here are the vulnerabilities you've already had. So these are things that have already happened. We're not even talking about what could happen tomorrow, next week. So it's about, kind of, I would say, keeping it simple and just using that data to share the reality of here's what's out there. And it becomes a visceral and kind of a personal response then. You're showing someone their password. If I'm the CEO and I see, I'm using my daughter's name for a password and I see that's out there on the dark web, that's an immediate response you're going to get. And then, the other thing too is just using smart and customized marketing. So, a huge piece of our platform, in addition to just this managed service side, is customized sales and marketing collateral so that you can create a clean and cohesive message so that it's a very compelling call to action. And, as you're going through the sales process, you want to give them something to say, all right, here's what I'm giving, here's what I'm giving you so you can see the value of what I'm able to deliver. And that's, again, this data and the dark web scan and using that to drive traffic and interest. It's so funny. I think, we hear stories all the time on the road every week, and hearing stories from partners that are using the live data search and using this tool really for prospecting and diving into these conversations. We had a partner that was pitching a small business, and he was one of 4 MSPs that was, in kind of contention for the business. And he thought he was doing okay. He was like, all right, they like me, but, security stacks to security stacks kind of across the board. But he went into the meeting and closed the meeting with, and here's the exposures that you guys have currently on the dark web, and kind of used that as the closer. And he won the bid against the other 3 MSPs because of everyone, he was the only one that shared that type of information. So again, you think about it as a huge differentiator, and we're super proud of having 2,200 partners, and that's amazing. But if you think about the MSP market in general, that's just a drop in the bucket. So this is still such a huge, unique piece of what you can offer, and it's a great way to help that SMB kind of see the urgency and see the need to act quickly.
I've got a couple of questions from the audience. You mind if we jump there?
Yeah, absolutely.
I throw you off a little bit anyway, so we might as well give it a shot. This one's always interesting, but there are other companies out there that perform certain functions similar to what you guys do. Now, I haven't heard of any that actually do the scanning. I've heard of several that do some other portions, but what makes ID agents stand out in the crowd? You clearly do to me, yeah. So I'm wondering what helps make you guys stand out to the SMB, yeah. To the MSP market.
Absolutely, and I love this question, so thank you to whoever asked that. So there's a couple of things, and one, we were the first channel-only dark web monitoring solution in this space. We were the first one to really bring this type of data. So there's a lot of experience that we've had in kind of figuring out how do MSPs sell this, how can they be successful, and I would say that one of the biggest differentiators, and something that I encourage all of you to drill your vendors on, and if you're looking at us and you're looking at other people, make sure you're asking these questions. Where are they getting the data? Where are they sourcing the data from? So we have a team of analysts that are here in the US-based analysts that their sole job is searching the dark web for these credentials and monitoring for that exposure. So, we're not just kind of scraping some of the more publicly available websites that are out there and loading that into the platform for you. They're gaining access to some of those more member-only areas, communities, message boards, chat rooms, et cetera. So we're going into other places and other sources to be able to provide that information. So you can be sure that the data is coming from our team. So you see a record in there, you've got a question about it, give us a call and we can help, figure out, an answer to whatever you need to know. Where if you're working with another company that is sourcing from a third party, anytime you get degrees of separation between, the data, there's always going to be just, it's going to take longer to figure things out. The second thing it's a big differentiator is we're providing full clear text passwords. So there really aren't any other companies in this space, in the kind of MSP and the channel and the SMB space, that are providing, that level of detail with the exposures. So there's some free websites out there that you can go and you can get the email address, but until you have that password, you can't really validate it. So, you go into that conversation and you say, look, here's the email address that was exposed, and also here's the full clear text password that was used. It's an immediate validation of the data. So those are the two big things from just a data and kind of technical standpoint that I think are a huge differentiator and what makes us stand out. The second piece of this really is the support that you get from a sales and marketing standpoint. So we look at this as a managed service solution. This is something you're selling for recurring revenue, and that's, a huge piece of it. But the other side of it is this is a lead generation tool for you. This is a business development tool. So when you think about fitting this into the budget and the P&L, it's 50% managed service, 50% sales and marketing. So it's fully white labeled. You're getting, all the reporting, everything is branded for you. And you've also got access to powered services, which is our sales and marketing kind of library for you, where everything's customizable. It's turnkey, it's, ready to go from day one. So you can really get out there and start building campaigns and start, getting things in motion so that you don't have to figure out how to sell this before you can, actually get out there and start selling. So it becomes, the go-to-market is pretty quick there. So I think that's another huge differentiator, because a lot of other solutions like this aren't, from a data standpoint as sophisticated, and then from a just ease of going to market and getting out there, there's not at this level.
That's fantastic. Let me ask you this. We're just about everyone on this call is an MSP. We're always looking for recurring revenue. So we do a scan for somebody, and then what's the solution look like that we're going to actually propose, and what are we managing, if you will, or where's the recurring revenue coming from?
Yeah, absolutely. So there are two solutions within the platform that you're selling as a managed service. So you've got the dark web monitoring side. So what you're doing when you get someone on board for dark web monitoring, you're adding their domain, their IP address, whatever it is, their personal email addresses, the components that you're monitoring there. Once you get them into the platform, essentially you're getting an alert every day showing you these exposures that are happening. So that's the managed service piece. We've got integrations with ConnectWise, Autotask, and Kaseya BMS coming very, very soon, I think within a week, that allows you to kind of run that through your PSA, so you're not logging into our platform to manage those individual exposures and records. It's coming through and it's automated. So that's the dark web monitoring side. And again, you're getting that intelligence that you can then create the workflows to your customer to say, this employee was exposed, here's the record, here's the email address and password, they need to go change this password immediately. And then the other side of it, which I think is really interesting, and a lot of our partners are really leaning in on this, is BullPhish ID, which is the phishing and training solution. So it lives within the same platform, it's all there. And essentially it's your ability to run security awareness, training videos and different campaigns there, and then anti-phishing. So all of the emails, everything's loaded into the platform for you. So it's really easy to manage and set up. But that's kind of the thing that you're selling to your clients. You're saying, okay, for $150 a month, we're going to monitor your domain on the dark web and alert you to exposures. We're going to run, a 12-month training and awareness campaign for all of your employees. And we're going to do monthly, quarterly, bi-monthly, whatever cadence you want, phishing campaigns as well. And then you're able to report back to them on the results of the awareness, the results of the phishing, so you can continue to provide them insight into their employee behavior. So then from a managed service standpoint, imagine going into your QBRs with them, being able to show them, all right, over the last quarter, here's what's happened, here's where we've seen improvements, here are the departments that don't seem to be performing as well. They're not able to spot these phishing emails, they're clicking on all the links, so you're really able to start providing that insight. And then, as you're thinking about that revenue, so that's, let's say, $150 a month for this solution per client, then you're able to start building on top of that and say, okay, because of this data and because of this insight, here's why you need multi-factor authentication. Here's why you need a password manager. Here's why you need, X, Y, and Z. So you can really start using this as that first layer of your security stack. So it becomes quite simple from a managed service standpoint. There's not a ton of maintenance. There's not a ton of, engineer or tech work that needs to happen because it is, pretty automated. But the margins are just really strong from a revenue standpoint. So just to give you kind of a high level just price point. So at a base level, $300 a month to us is your cost as the MSP, and that gives you 20 domains in the platform. So for those 20 domains, you're reselling them. So that's essentially, 20 licenses. And again, we recommend at the very bottom level, $100 a month per domain. And then as you're building in the phishing and training, you're bumping that up accordingly. So, $300 a month to us for 20 of those, it becomes quite lucrative, as a managed service side. And then if you think about the other half of it, which is the prospecting tool and the ability to bring in new clients, it's just the the revenue stream there is quite profitable.
Can we dive into that a little bit, the prospecting side? Like how have your partners really used this to prospect?
Yeah, so, and I'll kind of share what I like to think about kind of the scale or just kind of the spectrum, if you will, of prospecting in the platform. So essentially, just from a functionality standpoint, within the platform, you pop in a domain, press search, and instantly you're going to get 100 of the most recent records that we have found for that particular domain. So with that report, and you export it, it's nice and clean, it's branded for you, white labeled, it's a nice kind of very dynamic report, and you're using that. So let's say at the kind of, one end of the spectrum, you have a sales meeting with a client you're trying to close, and this becomes something you share in that meeting, you build that into the presentation. So in those one-on-one sales meetings, in those pitches, it becomes, again, a huge differentiator. So you're using that report to show them, I've pitched you my stack, I've pitched you the services, or, even I've just pitched you this $150 dark web monitoring solution, here's a sample, here's what's out there. So it's kind of step one, I would say. And then partners are using it kind of on a larger lead generation side. So you get this into the hands of your sales team, for example, if you've got one, and you just start running scans on prospects that are maybe already in your system that are cold or that haven't engaged in a while. And you're getting, potentially new data for those companies. So then you're able to make that call. And, no call is really a cold call if you're providing, relevant and new information. And we've got templates of all of that outreach. So, you're not trying to come up with that on your own because it is obviously a nuanced conversation. So, you start, just running lists and kind of going that way, just from a pure lead generation standpoint, building a campaign around that. It could be something as simple as an email that goes out saying, hey, we're now offering dark web monitoring as a solution. I know we haven't talked in a while, but I did run an initial scan on your organization and found 35 records that, I'd like to share that information with you and kind of show you where you've been vulnerable and exposed and talk about, how this solution could potentially, be a good fit for you. So that's kind of one side of it. And then if you think about other engagement activities and other ways that you're getting in front of your prospects and even current clients, it's hosting a lunch and learn and putting together a presentation. And we've already got these built out for you, but presentations around that, kind of what I talked about in the beginning of this. So the education component of why SMBs are a threat, what does a dark web exposure actually mean, kind of getting into some of that education, and then at the end of the webinar or lunch and learn or whatever it is, offering a dark web scan as the call to action. Just an example of an event or something like that that's been really successful. We have partners that are, hosting golf tournaments or sponsoring a hole at a golf tournament and putting together some collateral, and at that golf tournament, they are offering a free dark web scan, drop your business card in this fishbowl and we'll run a dark web scan and get back to you and schedule a call. So we have partners that are just getting tons of leads because everyone's going to want to see that data. Everyone's going to want to know what's out there. So you're not doing an in-depth sales pitch. You're not doing this detailed thing, but you're using the dark web scan as the call to action and as a way to collect that information. So then you get the meeting. I just saw a partner just like right before this call. He was on Facebook and he showed a photo of some ID agent kind of dark web branded collateral that he had blown up, and he had sponsored kind of the beer booth at the golf tournament and was selling beer and offering dark web scans. You've got a lunch and learn. You want to, bring people in. There's some really creative and funny, not funny, haha, but, interesting ways that you can deliver this. So you get all of your attendees ahead of time. If you're hosting a lunch and learn, run the scans on everyone prior to the event. Put just the number, not any other information, just the number on an index card, for example, and give it to them as they're checking in. And everyone's going to look at that number, and just naturally, we're going to think, oh, if I have a high number, that's better. So, oh, I've got 115, this is great. And then you go through your content, you go through your presentation, and at the end, you tell everyone, hey, look at the index card I gave out. That's the number of dark web exposures your company currently has, or however you wanted to frame that. So again, there's lots of ways that you can present this data to just get interest, get people kind of engaged and use that as the call to action. And, you know, even with your current clients, that's the place that we recommend everyone go to initially for this. Run dark web scans on all of your clients and, you know, really use kind of some of those same tactics to say, hey, you know, we really need to get you in for this new service that we're offering. So, you know, it just becomes, it's human nature to want to know what this information is and what it says. So using that, you know, kind of in a smart way in your campaigns and in your outreach and kind of using that information, you know, really just becomes super compelling. We had a partner that was pitching a deal and he was, you know, almost there, and he used kind of actually what he did, it was funny, instead of using the index card strategy, he actually put the names that have been exposed up on a PowerPoint presentation. So the last slide in his deck was kind of everyone at the organization and, you know, if they had been exposed, so showed the, you know, latest 20 records or whatever. And they actually stopped the meeting in the middle, excused themselves, went to go change passwords, and then came back and said, all right, you know, give us the contract. So, you know, there's lots of different ways you can go about it, and your partner success team will really help kind of figure out what's best for your market, for your audience. But, you know, really there's just tons of opportunity and options in terms of presenting this data.
So the questions are flowing in, and my ADD is having me bounce all over the place. So this is kind of fun. And I'm making up answers for you. Don't worry. You'll have to live up to them. So can you walk through a little bit about, we have MSPs online that maybe are larger and have sales departments, and then we have others that sales are not really their focal point. And by the way, the answers are coming in like, wait, this sounds good. And I'm getting very specific questions that I'll leave for you guys later. But
yeah,
how does ID Agent help us when we're not sales focused?
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, and that's one of the things that I think is inherent in, you know, our kind of commitment to the channel and commitment to MSPs, because, you know, a huge piece of this is we understand that you may be a one-man shop and you're marketing, your sales, you're the tech, you're the engineer, you're everything. So you don't want to just bring on another product. You've got to try to sell that. You've got to, you know, get out there and try and make your money back quickly. So there's kind of two sides of this, I would say. And, you know, the first is automate as much as you can. So get the integration set up, figure out the workflows ahead of time. Let us kind of help you craft that message to your clients. Let us kind of help you figure out the pricing and what that looks like so that it just becomes a very simple thing to implement. And that's what your channel success or your partner success team is here for. So you'll have a dedicated channel success manager that'll work with you from day one on an onboarding, sales training, kind of all of that, but then kind of just ongoing management too. So, you know, from a day-to-day, you know, I need to get, you know, this integration up and running. I need to understand how I can set up this workflow, whatever it may be. You know, we can really lean in on that with you to make sure that as much as can be is taken off of your plate, so it doesn't have to be another platform that you log into, you know, daily. And then the other side of it, I would say, just specifically from a sales and marketing team, I think you'll find from a tech and from an operations standpoint, the platform's really, really simple. But the sales and marketing side, you know, for the smaller shops, for the groups that just don't have a large team that can get out there and do this, we released recently a program called GoalAssist. And GoalAssist is essentially the opportunity for our team, so whether it's our channel success, business development, you know, whoever it is, to kind of take some of this off of your plate. So if you can get the audience, if you can get people on a webinar, I'll get on and do the presentation for you. You know, I'll host it, you know, I'll come up with the content, do everything, present to everyone, and then you basically just are closing the deals from that. If it's an in-person event that you've got on the schedule, but you really just don't know what you need to do in order to have successful follow-up or what kind of collateral you need, you know, our GoalAssist program can help you kind of build out that collateral, can build out, you know, kind of what the follow-up needs to look like, you know, what's the email that you need to set up that's going to go out to attendees, et cetera. So it's really the ability for our team to lean in on some of those revenue driving activities so that you don't have to do all of it. So you don't have to do all of the legwork. You know, and in our platform, we've got several campaigns that are already loaded. We've got a great white paper that we've built out a whole campaign around, a bunch of other things where we've got the social media graphics already done, the landing page created, the, you know, social media kind of graphics that you need, that, you think about posting, email follow-up, kind of all those little things that if you are not naturally a salesperson or a marketing person, that's going to sound like hell for you. You're not going to want to do that, and you're not going to be as effective when it comes to that event. So a lot of that we've already have in the platform, so that you can really just kind of plug and play there. So, our goal really is to make this as easy as possible for you to just start making money quickly. Because we understand that, you're not necessarily the only salesperson around, and, you've got other things to do. So we want to try and take as much of that off of your plate as we can.
I just got this great comment from somebody that's Corey, but I'm not going to mention his last name. Says, I'm a small MSP and I just can't go out and take on new tools over and over again unless I sell it first. But I'm finding with ID Agent, I simply mention it everywhere I go to each one of my clients, and little by little, I have them pre-signed up and ready to go.
Yeah,
so that's
absolutely.
Pretty cool. I'm assuming Corey's already a customer with the way he worded this. Hey, on the when you're doing a show or you're working a trade show booth, is there a limit to the live scans you can do when you're just logged in and doing a scan?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So with each, kind of term or plan that you sign up for, you are allotted a certain number of live searches. So at the very base level, for just a 12-month, it's 50 searches a month, and then it kind of scales from there. There are several options to have unlimited searches, so you can run as many as your heart desires. If you are on one of the plans where you do have a finite number per month, you would just work with your partner success manager, and we could unlock that for you for the day of your event. So you'd be able to run as many as you needed to for that particular event. Or, to be honest, and they may yell at me for saying this on a webinar, but, if you are coming up to the end of the month and you really just need to run 5 or 10 more scans and you're already at your max, we'll take care of you. So we want to make sure you're successful. So we do have plans that have unlimited, which is great for anyone that really wants to dive in on the prospecting. But if you do have, let's say it's an event a quarter, or you've got a random trade show that, you really want to attend and use this as the kind of to drive booth traffic, we'll make sure you've got enough searches for that day.
That's fantastic. As always, ID Agent is probably the most flexible vendor I've seen out there. And I love hearing that stuff. So when we're at a show or a booth and we're doing these live scans and someone's email address and password shows up, does it show us detail like where it was found or what the breach was or anything along those lines?
Yeah, so when you're running the scan, so we provide as much attribution as we have. So the way that the report, it'll show you when you're doing the prospecting scan, you'll see the email address, you'll see the password. The only difference is that we are masking the password after the first 4 characters. So because this is a sales tool, or theoretically they're not your paying client yet, we are masking that. But, ultimately, if someone sees the first 4 characters, that's going to be enough to say, okay, yeah, that looks familiar. That was a password. And then we are sharing other pieces of information, like where on the dark web we found it, what website was initially compromised that led to this exposure. The one thing that I will, just say to kind of combat this objection up front, you're not always going to get full attribution or details for all of those areas, because ultimately the dark web is, it's a very kind of ever changing. There's, information's being passed around multiple times. There's, it's not always going to be a clean, fully attributed set of data. But when we have that information, we share it. We want to make sure that you've got everything that you need to go into that conversation. But if you do come across a record that maybe doesn't have where it initially came from, you always want to steer it back towards the credential itself, because at the end of the day, it's on the dark web, it's there. There's no way to remove it. So it really doesn't matter where it initially came from, because it's now in the hands of a cyber criminal potentially. So what you want to do is say, okay, this password, where else are you using that? Are you using that on any other websites or applications that have access to client data, to company records, to financial information, anything that could be potentially catastrophic? So you always just want to steer it back to that conversation and just do a little bit of discovery with that individual to figure out where else have I used this password and what could potentially be at risk.
Fantastic. I think that covers the questions I had.
Awesome. So the last thing, and I think this was really fun. I like just the discussion rather than going through a PowerPoint deck with you guys. So thank you for your time. I do want to just kind of close. So Steve and I, really wanted to figure out a way that we could make, this easy for you to come on board as a partner and, really come in and dive in and let us work with you to help really grow your business. So we've got some pretty great deals. I hate using the word deals. I feel like I'm a used car salesman, but, some really great specials for you to really help make this a quick and easy turnaround in terms of driving new revenue. So a few things that we're offering. If you do come on board with us, after attending this webinar or viewing the recording, if you're listening to this and you weren't able to attend. So we do 12-month terms and 36-month terms. So we're doing 10% off a 1 year, 30% off of your monthly cost of a 3 year. So that becomes, well under $300 at that base level and then scales up from there. We're also including, so normally it's a separate cost, but we're including BullPhish ID, which is our phishing simulation and security awareness training, included with any term. So whether it's 1 year, 3 year, it doesn't matter, we're including that for free. And that is going to be, again, unlimited phishing and training for any of the domains that you're monitoring in the platform. And then the other thing, kind of this third bullet here, so GoalAssist, again, that kind of very high touch, kind of white glove 2.0 sales and marketing support. We're including that for your first year in all 3 year terms. So it really gives you a chance to dive in for that first year and really use us to really start getting your clients on board, getting prospects in, and really start building that base so you can start making money. So these are specials that are going to be, for you guys for attending and watching the webinar. And we're really excited to, engage with this group more. I would say that, I interact with a lot of people on the road. Steve is one of my favorites out there. So definitely, use each other, use this peer group to really help make this work for you. I think it's the easiest way for you guys to learn from each other and, really engage with other MSPs that are having success, that are doing some things that maybe are unique. So, absolutely dive into your peer group for everything, because that's the greatest way to keep growing and learning. But that's kind of an aside. But yeah, so, these specials, again, for you guys specifically for this webinar, and then I will flip over. So my email address and phone number is here. We'll follow up with you guys with an email or follow up with you via email, but please reach out to me directly. Feel free to give me a phone call. I'm happy to chat through some more of these strategies, some success stories, some different examples of pricing or whatever it is. So definitely feel free to reach out. But otherwise, I do want to get you guys back to your day. But a huge thank you to Steve and the MSP-Ignite team, because this was, definitely fun, and I'm glad we were able to chat this afternoon.
Natasha, thank you very much. This was fantastic. I'm pretty sure I've heard you say other people are your favorite, but I'll let that go.
No, of course not.
But thank you very much. Thank you all for attending. We will make this webinar available to you. If you need to see it again, just let us know, and I believe ID Agent will follow up with you shortly. Have a great rest of your day, folks.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much, and I look forward to talking to you soon.